Oh, good day. Chief here for Chief Tells Tales. Sorry about last week being a little out of focus. I notice when I don't use my light in the distance, I'm out of focus. I got done with last week's videos and started to tear down, and I'm like, oh, I forgot to use the light. So I think I was out of focus last week, just a smidge. That light, for some odd reason, makes a difference. I got an overhead light, I got a light over there, and then of course I got the curtain behind me closed. Otherwise, it'd be fighting the outside light. So like I said last week, I'm in Germany. I'm living in Crumstadt. Got a nice place. Oh, would love to be there sometimes just for the three balconies, morning, noon, and evening hours. Noontime, look over the fields out back, like I said. So I'm working in Darmstadt, 66th MI Brigade. And like I said, CMD department. I'm there for a big reorg. No big deal. I get new people. I get a guy that I don't know where he came from, but he was a known person. Everybody knew him, so therefore it's like he had a job guaranteed. And well, there's this thing called ISR, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. I don't think he knew what that acronym meant, because he came at me one time and he's like, Chief, I think we're doing too much work on the ISR. I said, you know what it is? Yeah. I said, well, that's our bread and butter. Oh, okay. Because CMD is just basically questions are asked, we supply the intelligence. That's basically what a CMD department. Here I did not run a library like I ran at Fort Stewart when I was the NCOIC of the CMD department. So here I didn't have a library to maintain. All I had to do was worry about it. And I had several civilians and a couple soldiers, and that was it. So they were all contractors. One of my contractors was a drunk. And he was a former soldier, U.S. Army, and he had been in Germany for a long time because he ETS in Germany, and he had a very bad marital status. He was divorced, and he had twin daughters, and they lived with their mother down in Turkey. So that was always a story going on, because he was still supporting her, and it'd be like, hey dude, quit tying up work time with your personal. Had to tell him that a couple times. And then of course, if anybody knows anything about Germany, when it's your birthday, you, the birthday boy, if you go into a bar, drinks are on you. You have to pay the drinks. So he came in to work the following day after his birthday, and his eyes looked so terrible. And I don't think he had any sick time. If he did, I said, you need to take a sick day. No, I'm fine, and his eyes are just bloodshot. We somewhat covered for him. He dozed off a couple times, but at least he didn't sink his head like a lot of people do. But I should have wrote him up personally or sent him home. I did talk to somebody, and they're like, too late in the day now for it. So after working there about a year, they said, Chief, you got to go down to Heidelberg. Excuse me? Well, we have your MOS down in Heidelberg, and that guy is retiring. So you need to go down and meet him, get to know what he does down there, which is 7th Army. So I go down there, and I meet a warrant officer who's retiring. He's the same rank as me. We're both CW3s at this time, or was I a 4? No, I wasn't a 4 yet. So we were both 3s, and we got to talking and found out that we were in Berlin, Germany at the same time together. But back then, he was an infantryman, and he told me a crazy story, because we had our own mock-up village where the infantry soldiers would, train to do house fighting and street fighting. So he said one day that And this is during the Union of Soviet Socialistic Republics, so the USSR. And this village, he said, was right on the border. It was right on the wall between West Berlin and East Germany around us. So he said he was house clearing, and he was inside a building, busted through the door, got out the door, and then, throws his back up against the wall, and he's looking straight into a Soviet helicopter because they were being observed while they were doing their let's play war inside of a village. And it was back then. It's a funny story because you're not expecting to be playing at war, leap through a doorway, put your back up, and then stare right into a Soviet gunship when in real life that Soviet gunship would just make you into hamburger. So I had to replace him, and he's kind of like me when I retired. No prospects, didn't want to be a contractor, and they were going to go back to Battle Creek, Michigan, cereal capital in the United States. His daughter or son, I can't remember which, they were going to go into college. The other one was still in school. Wife didn't care. They're like, well, we do have a house. They did save up enough to at least start purchasing a house. But he said he had no plans. He didn't know what the heck he was going to do. So now I'm working in Heidelberg. And I'm still living in Crumstadt. So I'm driving. So I talked to my first boss, and I got okay. I said, sir, I'm going to drive early in the morning because I'm assigned still up in Darmstadt, but now I'm attached to 7th Army. So I still belong up north for purposes. And then being attached, I don't really answer to their chain of command to do other stuff. I can't be touched to pull like staff duty. Or back then, or at that rank, would be officer of the day. Never got to do that. I really wanted to do officer of the day. So he said, sure, chief, no problem. I said, this way I'm beating traffic, and then I can leave late afternoon. Got another warrant officer that sits in the office with me so he can cover, and then that way I can beat traffic going home. He says, yeah, no problem, as long as you put in your time and make sure that your work's all done before you go home for the day. And down there, it was just basically the same thing. I was like a mini CMD because we were a liaison between the MI Brigade and 7th Army. So therefore, when 7th Army had questions, they would come to military intelligence questions, come to us, and then we would get the information back and forth. And come to find out that all the equipment that I'm sitting behind actually belongs to the MI battalion, not 7th Army. So when I had computer troubles, I had to call up to Darmstadt and say, hey, I'm having computer troubles. You need to come down and fix. And that got to be a problem because later on, I'm not thinking of it. I didn't know a crisis was going to come down the road, and a crisis did come down the road during the latter part of my time there. So I would come early in the morning, and then I would get on my top secret computer, look at all these reports, and then I would print them off and put them in a binder. So when the G3 for the 7th Army, who I went through a couple of those, and one of them was a former brigade commander of mine, or a battalion commander of mine, and have those. Well, my toner cartridge ran out. Well, my printer was so old that nobody in the 7th Army, at least in the building that I was in, had a spare cartridge or an extra cartridge to put in this printer because, hey, your printer's really old. So I had to call up to 66, and they're like, well, we don't have any on hand either. We'll order one. Well, I said, I need one ASAP. Well, the crisis kind of toned down, and then I just started emailing the stuff to the G3, and then he would print what he needed. So he deeply appreciated all that hard work that I put in. So I did it. I did a job down there occasionally. But we also did a lot of exercises, so I got to go all over Germany, so to speak, because we went to Kaiserslautern, K-Town, And then, of course, we went to the training areas, Grafenwehr, and can't remember the name of the other one. Those were still operational when I was there. And so I just became a staff officer again to do exercises. And that was about it. And then I would run across I had a civilian contractor that worked in our office too, because he was like another connection, but he was more from stateside with NSA. He was the NSA rep. And then one of those that came in was a former staff sergeant I worked with in Hawaii. So they kept saying throughout my career, oh yeah, you're going to keep running across people that you work with at every assignment. This is like the first assignment where I'll run across about at least almost up to 10 people that I knew at other field stations. But while I was down at Darmstadt, we had a plethora of warrant officers here again, just like in Korea, and just like at Alamo Station, where I just left to go to this assignment. So we had and we had one. Oh, Jose. Jose was a character. He had a Spanish-speaking father and a German mother. Now he had a funny story to tell too, because his father married the German, and of course in Germany, so he grew up speaking German, not Spanish. And he told a story one time throughout his dad's career. He came stateside. He said he was walking down the street and he got spoken to by these two Spanish speakers, and they finally spun around after walking past him and said, "Hey, we talked to you. Don't you speak Spanish?" He goes, "No." He says, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" And they're like, "What?" He says, "Do you speak German?" He says, "German is my second language." So we used to tease him because, occasionally we would read articles and, "Hey, this is in Spanish. Jose, can you translate this for us?" And he's like, "Okay, you guys, stop it." So we had fun with him. I mean, he didn't mind. He didn't mind the harassment. He was fun to work with. So that's about it for today. I do have several stories. Like I said, I really can't talk about much what I actually did because, hey, I'm old enough. I'm not worried about 3 squares a day, so I really don't want to go to federal prison. So I'll just keep talking about funny stuff like what I talked about today. My mother will die while I'm here. I will get promoted while I'm here, so that's coming down the pike. Exercises, I'll meet people that I worked with in the past. So this is Chief out. We're in December. 2022 is about ready to end. I'm hoping the war is about ready to end, because I don't know how Putin is. I'm surprised nobody's taken care of Putin yet. That's all I'm going to say. So remember, thank a vet, kiss a vet, love a vet. You know what to do. Remember, freedom's not free. Chiefs out.